And we're back with another episode of Let's Play Lost Odyssey. I'm your host, the RPG guy, and I wanted to figure out the best way to get through, like, all the side questing stuff. So I took a few minutes longer to think about it, and personally, I think that there is a way to do it that's effective, but one of the big things is I looked to see, I went to an inn to look to see how many, 1,000-year dream stores we have, and I realized we haven't finished as many as I thought. We actually have quite a bit more to do. And then in my infinite wisdom, I'm making the decision to try to knock out a big chunk of them that are still left over, because there is still a decent amount. But to me, it makes sense to knock them out not immediately, but semi-quick. So that way we can, like, not get interrupted as frequently through our adventuring sessions. So, yeah. So here we are in the Ypsilon Mountains, and we're going to be coming back here again to handle a side quest thingy. But like I said, I just want to knock out another dream, just to eliminate constant, interruptions. But we'll also do, like I said, we're gonna do a handful of things to knock stuff out and get stuff done, and we'll deal with it as it comes to us. So you can see there's still enemies faster than our characters, even at these really high and absurdly powerful levels. Which is kind of funny. So much murder. I believe we're gonna get 2 to 4 SP for this, which isn't bad. That's why the fight is actually worth it. Or 8p rather. So that's worth it. That's a lot of SP for such an easy fight. Funny how that is. So, running, here we go. One of about 3 or 4 I want to try to knock out. So, again, if you're not really into these side stories, just as a heads up, this episode might be a little drawn out. I'm also going to do some side questing in between, since we're in the areas of doing some stuff, but don't worry about it right now. But whenever you see these stories, if you really don't like these, I would just suggest you jump ahead. Like in the video to where you actually see what we're doing. If you do like these stories, then you're in for a pretty big episode full of them.
A chorus of cicadas. This forest is home to a priceless treasure. A marvelous and exceedingly rare creature lives here. You could search the entire continent and never find another such habitat. Of course, the value of our treasure is not apparent at first gaze. The village elder holds a cup of liquor made from fermented berries as he speaks. His ancestors have kept watch over this tiny village for generations. It is summer, and the massed cries of 1,000,000 cicadas pour down upon the small fort that guards the entrance to the village. The chorus of insects sound like a steady rain. I wonder if you gentlemen understand what I mean. The elder scans the dozen or so powerfully built men gathered at the fort. All of them wear a look of puzzlement, but all but one, that is. You said your name is Kaim, asked one of the villagers. You seem to know what he's talking about. Kaim nods and points upward. It's the cicadas, he says. A stir goes through the villagers. With a delighted smile, the elder says, "So you know, do you?" Far from delighted, the men in armor share suspicious glances. All are mercenaries. They've been hired by the village to protect the forest's treasure. Hey, wait just a second there, rumbles the voice of one soldier, perhaps emboldened by the liquor. Are you telling me this treasure we're supposed to protect is just cicadas? What's so special about them? They're everywhere. That is true, says the elder, which is why I said the value of our treasure is not obvious at first glance. They sound just like any cicadas I've ever heard. Another of the mercenaries says, with a look of amazement, yeah. How is this chorus of cicadas different from any other? They sound just like the ones in my hometown. The other soldiers laughed in agreement. Absolutely, says one. No difference, says another. The elder and the villagers, however, are not amused. They turn to Kaim as the elder asks him, Will you help us to protect our treasure? That is what I'm here to do, he replies. Tell me again, Kaim, do you really know the meaning of the treasure of this forest? I do. Then let me ask you this, do you know when this summer's battle will bear fruit? Kaim takes a sip of his liquor, releasing a long, slow breath and says, In 75 years. We're fighting for the summer 75 years from now. Is that what you mean? Another stir goes through the group of villagers. The elder, with a great look of satisfaction, nods deeply and refills Kaim's cup. To the stunned mercenaries, the elder says, We have protected our cicada chorus generation after generation. The ones who made it possible for us to hear this summer's chorus. Listen, it sounds like pouring rain. Are the villagers who were grown-up men 75 years ago when I was just a boy?
I said that wrong.
Are the villagers who were grown-up men 75 years ago when I was just a boy? The chorus that shook the forest last summer was protected 76 years ago, and next summer the cicadas protected 74 years ago will start singing together. This is how we have protected the forest cicadas over the years. Do you gentlemen now see how much this means to us? It is a matter of simple arithmetic. After the eggs are buried in the ground, the cicadas that lived in the forest spent 75 long years in the larval stage. At last, in the summer of the 75th year, they become mature insects, come out of the ground, and sing like mad in the treetops for the short week or two they remain alive. Just before they die, they come down from the trees, mate, and bury their eggs in the ground. A new crop of eggs that spend another 75 long years in the earth. The fact that we can hear the cicada chorus this summer means only one thing. The forest was at peace 75 years ago. Similarly, if the forest remains at peace this summer, the village will be able to hear the chorus 75 years from now. We have used what little money we have to pay you gentlemen to assemble here for this, to make the forest resound with the cicada chorus in 75 years. All the mercenaries but Kaim openly show their disappointment. Wait just a second now, Grandpa, says the soldier standing ramrod straight. You mean to say we're supposed to risk our lives to protect a bunch of bugs? Exactly. And even supposing we succeed in what we risk our lives for now, the result won't show up for 75 years? That is precisely what I mean. Come on, little man, you must be kidding. If it were money or valuables, that would be one thing, but we might lose our lives here, and for what? Bugs? Well, you are mercenaries after all. Okay, now, Grandpa, I'm gonna ask you one last time. I know this village is poor, and I know you people have had to scrimp and save to put this money together. There's no question about that. But when you say this is for bugs, for 75 years from now, you're not living in the same world I am living in. For something like that, you're willing to spend every last bit of money you've got, and in a bargain, get us to gamble our lives? Are you insane? We want the children 75 years from now to hear the cicada chorus for themselves. What's so strange about that? Now we are having trouble understanding you. Don't toy with me, old man. I can't take a job like that. The man shouts and storms out of the fort. Some of the other mercenaries call out to him, Hey, wait for me, I'm coming with you. Risk our lives for bugs. What a rotten deal that is. And they hurry after him. One man after another disappears with a parting remark. And keeping by advance, though, several of them add. The only fighter left in the fort is Kaim.
Mittens, no!
The downpour of cicada cries continue unabated. The whole forest sounds like one gigantic creature. One young man is working the lookout post at the fort in place of the departed mercenaries. He asks Kaim, "Are you all right with this?" "I'm fine. I knew what I was getting myself into. I heard after they left those men are a bad bunch. It's true. They're really in it for what they can get after the job is done. They're fine until they finish protecting the village from the enemy. Then they start asking for bonuses. They grab valuables and harass villagers. We saved the village for you, right? It wouldn't hurt you to give us a little extra. They say. The reason this year's mercenaries quit is because they realized there was no hope of any bonuses out of this village." "Why did you stay, Kaim?" the young man asked him. "There must have been a lot of jobs that would have paid you more. I just thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to risk my life for something 75 years in the future for a change, that's all." The young man nods his head thoughtfully. Then he tells Kaim one of the old stories of the village. "Long, long ago, way before I was born, when the elder was still a boy, there was a summer when the cicadas didn't sing at all. Of course, this means that 75 years before that, there was a battle that ravaged the forest. The elder says that the summer forest without the cicada chorus was so sad and lonely, it was horrifying. It actually gave him the chills. The trees themselves were alive, but it felt as if the whole forest had died. Sitting alone in the silent forest, he felt so lonely he wanted to cry. And worse, he felt the intense anger towards our ancestors for not having protected the forest 75 years earlier. The elder tells this story whenever he's had a little too much to drink." Kaim nods in silence. "I know all about that. He almost let himself say, but he swallows his words and smiles instead." The young man goes on. So anyhow, when the elder was sitting and crying in the forest, he says a traveler came along, a young man, big and strong, a man like you, Kaim. And he said to the elder, "Don't ever forget how sad and lonely you are today. When you grow up, make sure you never let the children who come 75 years after you feel this way." The elder says he doesn't remember the man's face, but he will never forget his words. He tells this story to the young people of the village over and over. Kaim nods again, saying nothing, but the skin on his back seems to creep beneath his shirt. All these years, the elder has kept the promise he made to the traveler. No matter how much the merchants might have pressed him, he has never let them do anything that will ruin the forest. He's kept on good terms with the neighboring village to avoid making enemies. He has sometimes entered into dealings that were not in our advantage and lost many chances for us to make money. This is why the village is still so poor. The young man gives a self-deprecating chuckle. Still, not one person in the village resents the elder for what he has done. The village kids have always gotten to the forest to bathe themselves in the shower of the cicada chorus. That's just how we grew up. We took it all for granted. We all feel nothing but gratitude towards the elder and all the ancestors who came before him, who have enabled us to hear the cicada chorus every year." Kaim says nothing in reply, but he begins to savor the creeping feeling across his back. He brings to mind the face of a young boy he met so long ago, more than 80 years ago. "Why aren't the cicadas singing?" the boy sobbed. "Why is there not even one cicada this year? Why did our ancestors burn down the forest back then? But he had a gleam in his eye, and that same gleam, hidden by wrinkles, still resides in the eyes of the elder, passed down from one generation to the next. It is there in the eyes of the young man guarding the fort with Kaim. This is the very reason that Kaim is here. Now the village, which has kept the peace for so many years, is about to be attacked. The neighboring country is expanding its power. Its army has violated the border and is heading this way. The prospects for victory are slim. The eldest says, if you can get us through the summer, that is all we need. All we ask is that you help us prevent them from devastating the forest until the cicadas have planted their eggs. The neighboring country is not likely to show much interest in this poor village, which is merely a pathway for the army marching toward the city beyond the forest. If the village can hold out until the end of summer and surrender with the coming fall, the enemy will probably charge straight through the forest and head for the city. The elder says, and when, after a nice little visit, they leave us, we'll have to offer for them a parting gift. They could have this worn-out old head of mine. Laughing, he mimes cutting his own head off. The elder has transcended any unseemly attachment to the world. He has lived a full life. Now all he wants to do with his remaining time is to give the children 75 years in the future the chance to hear the cicadas. Tell me one thing, Kaim says to the young man, bringing his sword closer to hand. What's that? When you're grown up, will you be able to bet your life on a future that is still 75 years away? I will, he replies without the slightest hesitation. We can't see the joyful faces of children 75 years from now, but I do know that the forest has to be filled with the crying of the cicadas every summer. Whether now, or next year, or 75 years from now, or even beyond that. That's what they call the grown-up's responsibility. And I'm not the only one who believes this. All the young people of the village do. The elder has raised some damn good young people, I see. What's that? Did you say something? No, nothing at all. Kaim holds himself in readiness, staring straight ahead. Dust clouds well up on the horizon. An enemy unit seems to be approaching. The cicadas cry without ceasing. The enemy is coming. All right, it's time. Kaim heads out to battle. The cicada chorus reverberates endlessly as if playing the song of life. That was a rough read. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, there's another dream. And maybe by the end of before we end, we'll go to an inn or something and see how many stories we have left to do, you know? We have to come back here later, but we don't have the means to finish the other side quest stuffs that are here. So we'll just kind of come back once we get that stuff, and we're going to easily won't be able to knock it out. Like I said, I'm more interested currently in trying to finish the side quest stuff. Specifically, I'm sorry, more interested in trying to get through the 1,000 Years of Dreams for you guys. As much of it as we can that I can do back to back to back. Not all of it can be done back to back to back, but do as much as I can. Between all of them, should be fine. Yeah, they forgot they're behind a thing. There we go. Totally, didn't even think about that thing being behind a barrier. Seth learns fire resistance and Ming learns weapon guard. Yay. So we can at least get something else on her. Like that. And give her that, I guess, for now. I don't...
I could give her waterproof. Let's give her a waterproof. Not that that's going to matter soon, because they're going to pretty much learn everything we can find to some degree once we knock as much of that out as possible. Alright, let's go to the construction base. As we're going to be able to fix some stuff and actually start the beginning of 2 different little side quests here, which will be nice. I don't know, the magic independent stops, so the limiter isn't working anymore. It was custom built engine, so we can't repair it ourselves. It's worse, all of our trained technicians have pulled out of the base. Something isn't done soon. Not only will the dynamo be destroyed, but the magic energy in the area could catalyze into a runaway reaction. Dun dun dun. A runaway reaction, that's bad, right? Cool your jets, we just need to get the pendulum moving again, right? You can do that, Said? Of course I can. Here, let me have a look. You did it. The power's back online, so the limiter is working again. Thank you so much for helping us. I don't know if this will make up for it, but please take this. And no, it doesn't. Not really. There's a side quest that requires us to do that dungeon in Gongora's mansion. I forget which guy. Is it this guy? I forget exactly which guy grants it, per se, but it is a thing. Should be one of the dudes in here. No, not you. Forget which guy. This guy. Damn, just as I feared, there just aren't enough raw materials. Not even the black market can get what I need. And why am I using this pathetic little magic capsule? It's simply too weak. I needed one at least 30 times. I need at least 30 times more output for my equipment to work. For that, I asked them for 30 magic capsules, and now they want to cancel my project. Fools. These idiots don't have the slightest idea of how magic research works. It's just rumor, but I've been told that King Gongora has developed a special kind of magic capsule that has more than 10 times the output of a normal capsule. If I can get my hands on just 3 of those things, I could continue my research. Those capsules have got to be in Gongora's old mansion. How about it? Would you contribute to this important project of mine? Yes. Okay, so it's in the dungeon of Gongora's mansion, so we'll deal with that when we're ready to tackle the other surrounding kind of thingamajigs here. And since we're at an inn, let's take a look. May as well. We're walking through one, for crying out loud. So the 1,000 years of memories. 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7. And we're going to knock out about roughly 3 or 4 more. If we can. It might take 2 episodes to accomplish this. But we're going to do what we can. I knew we were measuring them too far away. We've got to get a gauge closer to the magic locations, though. You've come at a good time. Could you help us with our magic research? I won't be anything too difficult. Essentially, we need to take the magic gauge here and set it up near the magic locations around the world. One such location lies atop the Ypsilon Mountains. Other locations are said to be inside the Black Caves, by the frozen entrance to the Ice Canyon in Gotza, and the ruins of an ancient eastern tribe. Okay. Magic locations are areas where magic energy settles in high concentrations. You'll find them right away with the gauge. Once you do, just drop the gauge there and you're done. Be rewarded for your efforts, of course. Are you interested? Yes. We get 4 magic gauges, which we will deal with Again, we won't deal with that right at this exact moment, but we will deal with it when we're damn hell ready. As far as that goes, we're kind of done here. Let's got hooked on the thing there. Let's head out this way. And now that we're kind of done in this area, I would say let's go to the refugee camp for some more lovely stories. All right. Do. And we're gonna get another dream. Kaim recalls a memory deeper than his heart. The dream has been revealed.
The village closest to heaven. In this village ringed by jagged mountains, the woman gave birth to many children. 5 or 6 is not uncommon. Just the other day, the wife of the village headman gave birth to her 10th child. And why do you think that is? The young fellow asked the traveler, looking down at the snow-blanketed village. Kaim cocks his head in search of an answer. Meanwhile, the young man takes something like a piece of crystal candy from a small leather pouch. He pops it into his mouth and says with a laugh, "Because they die right away." The children? Aha! Hardly anybody grows up to be an adult. Most kids die after 5 or 6 short summers. Look at the village headman's wife. She's lost 7 kids already. Whether from a genetic problem or a disease endemic to the area, the people of this village have always lived short lives, he says, from way back. Now that you mentioned it, says Kaim, I haven't seen any old people here. See what I mean? A few decades ago, I'm told one person lived to be 50. But people say that's the oldest anyone ever got in the whole history of the village. This is why we give birth to lots of kids. Give birth to a lot and lose a lot. If just one of them lives to adulthood, though, the family line is saved and the village history continues. See my point? The young man is 16, as is his wife. Their first child is due to be born any day now, literally today or tomorrow. The young man crunches down on the candy in his mouth. Let's get going, he says, and around his wrists he winds the ropes he used to pull the sled. He hasn't loaded the sled yet, but dragging it up the steep, snow-covered road is hard work. This, he says, is why the pay is so good. Only a few days earlier, he lost his good friend and fellow worker, who had been 3 years his senior. When Kaim happened along, the young man asked him if he would help by pushing the sled from behind until they cleared the pass. Kaim agreed, and they became an instant team. Kaim circles around to the back of the sled and asks, "You don't have any animals to pull the sled?" "Afraid not," says the young man. "I know it's strange, but our horses and cattle and donkeys all die young. You can spend a lot of money at the town market buying an animal, and it'll kill over before it's done a lick of work. Finally, the best way is for us humans to plow the fields and pull the sleds ourselves." The arms with which the young man himself is pulling his sled are massive, and he forges through the road's snowy cover with powerful steps. His fellow worker was stronger still, he says. He taught me how to pull the sled, how to set rabbit traps, how to build a fire, all the skills I need to live with all the love he would give to a kid brother. Before I knew it, he was gone. People here always die suddenly, he says. They can be perfectly healthy one minute and drop dead the next. No time for suffering. Just like that, no time to call a doctor. Even if the doctor comes, there's nothing he can do. Did your friend die that way? Uh-huh. He was shoveling the snow that piled up overnight, clearing the road, when he dropped dead. By the time we ran over to help him, he was gone. That's how it always is. Always. That's how they die. Grown-up kids. Everyone. And you too, then? I guess so. Nobody knows when the moment is coming. It might be decades from now, or it could be tomorrow. After this cool pronouncement, the young man turns to look at Kaim, and pointing to his own chest, says with a smile, or maybe even no. The smile is genuine, without a hint of despair or bitterness towards the cruelty of his fate. Aren't you afraid to die? Kaim starts to ask him, but stops himself. It's a stupid question, he decides, and one that he is not qualified to ask. There could be a man burdened with eternal life, find appropriate words to speak to a man burdened with the threat of sudden death. Kaim and the young man keep dragging the sled up the steep mountain path. The destination is the lake beyond the pass. The young man's job calls for him to cut ice from the surface of the frozen lake and transport it back to the village. We in the village call the lake the Spring of Life. If you trace the source of the water that bubbles out of the ground here and there in the village, you always wind up at the Spring of Life. Kaim nods silently. The ice from the Spring of Life takes forever to melt. That's why, look, you can even do this. Again, the young man takes a piece of the crystal candy, or rather, ice from his leather pouch and puts it in his mouth. It gives you energy. It's indispensable when doing hard work or for pregnant women or infants. Put the piece in your mouth and it gives you instant strength. Young man offers a piece to Kaim, who nods again in silence. You're really not supposed to give any to outsiders, but you're special because I'm putting you to work. If I give it to you, though, I want you to help me load the ice on the sled. I can handle it by myself on the way back. Kaim silently accepts the ice from the young man, who assures him it tastes good, too, and watches him smiling. Kaim averts his gaze somewhat and puts the piece in his mouth. This ice should be nothing but frozen water, but it has a mild sweetness. Just as Kaim expected, he spits it out when the young man is not looking. Poison. I know that taste, thinks Kaim. The village people are used to this taste, so they think nothing of it. Without a doubt, though, there is poison in the ice. The long flow of time smooths over the wounds inflicted by history. The permanently snow-capped peaks make people forget the existence of the wide world on the other side. The young man calls this lake the Spring of Life, but those who lived far beyond the mountains and the source of the river that feeds the lake used to know it as the Pit of Death. Long, long ago, several hundred years ago, the entire area around the river's source was polluted with the poisonous metallic overflow from the mine. The river was filled with dead fish floating belly up, and the poisonous gas that rose from the mist from the ground killed both the earthbound animals and the birds in the sky. The forest withered, and the lively town that had grown up with the development of the mine became a deserted ruin. Nature took many years to recover, but the forest eventually turned green again, which attracted small animals and eventually larger animals that hunted them. People, however, never came back. and there was no one left to hand down the story of the tragedy that occurred at the river's source deep in the mountains. The only one who knows anything is Kaim, the man who has lived 1,000 years. The young man stands by the frozen lake and takes a nice, satisfying stretch. You know, he says to the traveler, I sometimes think this village just might be the closest one to heaven in the whole world. Perhaps it's because we are too close to heaven that we're all summoned by the gods early on. Don't you think that might be true? Kaim says nothing in response to this. Over many years, this lake has accumulated the metallic poison that flowed into it from upstream. And over many years, the poison that infiltrates the soil has mingled with the groundwater, bubbling up in the spring water with which the villagers slake their thirst. No one knows the exact chemical makeup of the poison, but at least it does not cause the villagers to suffer until, at the last moment of their lives, the accumulated poison suddenly takes its toll. This may be its one fortunate aspect. On the other hand, this might slightly make it the misfortune it brings. On the other hand, this might simply make the misfortune it brings all the more conspicuous. Still, the young man says he saw off a piece of the ice by the shore. I do not hope that the children my wife and I will be able to live longer lives. I do hope. Say, if we have 5, at least one of them will live long enough to grow up and have kids. That way, for me, it would be like finding some meaning in having been born into this world. It was the same with my father and mother and my grandparents. They all had lots of kids and mourned the loss of lots of kids, but managed to raise 1 or 2 to adulthood before they died. That's what gives our life meaning. He wipes the sweat from his brow and puts another piece of ice candy in his mouth. If I were to tell him everything I know, thinks Kaim, if I were to tell him everything that has been buried in the darkness of history, and if he were to tell the other villagers, the tragedy might not have to be repeated. The young man says when a baby is born here, they ring the village bell. Also when someone dies. The same for both. Birth and death are like 2 sides of the same coin. So there's no sadness when someone dies. Everybody sees them off with a smile and a wish. You go ahead of us to heaven and save a good spot for us. Do you understand that sentiment? I do, says Kaim, I do. That's how we have always done it. Welcoming lots of new lives to the village and sending lots of lives off to heaven. I've never been much of a student, so I don't know exactly how to put this, but I kind of think that maybe the village closest to heaven is a place where life and death are right next door to each other. The young man gives Kaim an embrace, smile at the sound of his own words. Maybe it's because I'm about to have a kid of my own that I'm starting to think about these complicated things. No, that's fine. I see exactly what you mean, Kaim says. The moment the words leave his mouth, a bell sounds from the foot of the hill. Several long, slow rings. That's it, exclaims the young man. My child has been born. He dips his head and says again, as if savoring the sound of his own words, my child. While the bell is rung likewise for births and deaths, the young man says the sound in each case is subtly different. When a young villager learns to tell the two apart, he is considered to be an adult. I hope this one lives a long time, the young man says, choking with the flood of emotions that show on his face, but then he goes on as if to negate his own hopes for the future. Either way, whether it lives a long time or not, my child has now been born into this world. That's all that matters. I'm so happy, so happy. Eyes full of tears, he turns a beautiful, Eyes full of tears, he turns a beatific smile on Kaim. And then, still smiling, he collapses where he stands. Kaim lays the young man's corpse on the sled and returns to the village. As the young man said, the villagers accept his death with the same smiles they had for the birth of his baby. Death is not a time for sorrow. It simply marks whether one has been called to heaven earlier or later. The young man's wife takes an ice candy from the leather pouch he has left behind and places it gently into the baby's mouth. I want you to grow up to be strong and healthy, she says. Daddy is saving a wonderful place for you up in heaven. But go there slowly, slowly. And until you go to heaven, I want you to grow up here in the village till you're nice and big. Her words have a gentle tone of a lullaby. Kaim says nothing. If he is to stand unflinchingly for what is right, his silence may be a crime, but burdened with eternal life, Kaim knows how to suspect the right can be. Throughout history, people have fought and wounded and killed each other in the name of what they declared to be right. By comparison, the look on the dead young man's face is tranquility itself. The village closest to heaven is filled with happiness indeed. The baby starts to cry, its loud wailing like a celebration of the beginning of its own life, however short that life is likely to be. Kaim leaves the village with a smile on his face. The village bell begins to peal, reverberating with utter clarity through the distant mountains, as if to bestow a blessing on the young man who lived life to the fullest with neither resentment nor regret. And when this too long life of mine draws to a close, Kaim thinks, I like to be sent off with the sound of bells like this, if possible. Because he knows the day will never come, Kaim walks on, never stopping, never looking back. His long journey is far from over.
Whew. That's a thing. There's a lot of issues around life and death like that. I'm glad this cave is safe, but it's too gloomy inside here. If only we could get the magic engine working. I'm guessing it's broken. Actually, I have no idea about how it works. All magic engines are the same. Let me have a look. I'll have the thing running in a jiffy. Really? Actually, there's 6 broken engines here. Pay you if you can repair them all. That's a lot to ask, isn't it? Well, alright. I'll take care of them. And that is true. I don't believe there are any... Well, we'll go down there last if we can't find all of them. But yeah, this is a little something we can do. I know we're in the 40-minute range here. And there's still 2 more in this town, plus another one I want to knock out. So, hence why I'm trying to just line them up so we can knock them out. But like many things, it makes sense for us to kind of power through these in the next, I'm hoping to get through 3 in the next episode because there won't be as much traveling. Like we had to kind of travel in the Ypsilon Mountains. And we went to that little side camp just to knock that out. I'm probably not going to be doing any more, knowing that that's a thing. I'm going to avoid even more side questing from there, from that moment. So we fixed 2 of them. Go down here. Just to make sure. There is another one. And then that's the 3rd one. Or wait, no. 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth one. Here's the fifth one. So there's one more, which, no, down, there we go. Trying to think of where it is. Well, I got that one. There should be one near the front of the village, but we'll do a loop-de-loop just to make sure. So we got the one that was there. We got that one. We got that one. That's 3. The 2 in the pit would be 4 and 5. Here it is. I must have missed it. Well, this will be a cinch. I'll have this thing back up in no time. Okay. That should be all of them. Let's go back to the dude. Never thought anyone could fix all of the engines. Here's a little gift for you. Thank you. But you said we were going to get paid, bro. Anyway, this is a good place for us to stop. So I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe. All that good stuff. Check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/JackTardStudios for more live gaming action. You can support the channel there and all kinds of other stuff. Or, you know, some links in the description will be available. And when we come back, we will be doing more dreams. Hopefully to knock out 2 to 3 more. That way, again, we'll be getting these out of the way for a little while. There's 2 more dreams here, and there's one in the next area we're going to be trekking to, which is Gotza, to knock out another. Because to me, it's like, oh, gotta knock him out, gotta knock him out, gotta knock him out, blah blah blah, gotta knock him out. So for me, it's like the sooner we get them done, I think the happier we all will be, knowing that there's only going to be a handful of them left, like a couple, you know, and those are going to get done, of course, too. So anyway. Thank you guys for stopping by. Again, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next time.